And it is assault. And the only group of people that are government employees, people who work for schools that are paid tax dollars to look after children and to teach them, they're not held to a standard to protect our children. There's no legal protection. And you can't even enter a government building with a school spanking paddle. It's considered a deadly weapon. Another fellow advocate had gone up to the U.S. Supreme Court building, and the security people at the U.S. Supreme Court building told her that that was considered a deadly weapon. But in our schools, it's used to discipline children. And like I said earlier, discipline and respect are two different things. You can discipline them without hitting them. And you will never respect by, you have to earn that respect. And respect is mutual. It has to be earned.
That's right.
And that's
definitely.
How children learn. If you treat them with respect, that's how they learn.
And with that, we're going to go to the phone lines. We're going to bring on another caller. And I believe this is Aliyah. Let's open up your phone line. Aliyah, are you there?
I am here.
Hey, Aliyah. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Say hi to the gang. We're all here.
Hello.
Hi, Leah.
Hi there.
You just feeling the love. Any questions or comments?
There's one comment. I am from the South, and Florida has a corporal punishment thing where it's allowed.
It absolutely is.
As a matter of fact, that I actually had to sign a paper when I put my child into school, whether I want them to be spanked at school or not. And I chose not. I'm not going to have someone spank my child type thing.
Right.
Yeah, so what you're saying is correct. I remember when I was back in school, you always see the same kids get a paddling. And there was one time my brother got in trouble, and they actually called my father from work and had him come down and paddle my brother at school while the principal watched.
I've heard of that before. I can't imagine it because I don't spank my children. I don't hit them. I wouldn't do that. And
my
kids
brother,
don't know that they can say no.
My brother was in for paddling so much that he knew to wear at least 5 to 6 pairs of underwear so he wouldn't feel it.
Oh, yeah, and even that, you're still going to feel some stuff. I'm telling you. Listen, I got my butt whooped in school so much, and I would get it from my first grade teacher, my second grade teacher. On one incident I remember. My first grade, second grade teacher whooped me, took me to the principal's office. The principal wouldn't whoop me because we were family. However, she called the PE teacher, big, strong guy, almost 6 feet tall, right? He whooped me. When I went home, I got whipped. So I got my butt whooped. When I tell you, when I went back to school, my butt was sore, swollen, bleeding. I hated the world. I hated the world.
You're not alone, though. It's happened to many people. And decades later, they're still angry about it. It's psychologically traumatizing to some people. I mean, they maybe experienced a very severe, like your incident there that you just described.
Well, also from a Southern point of view, Southerners really believe in tradition and old-time ways, basically, as in, your child did something really bad, so I'm going to spank you and you're going to learn your lesson.
Oh, yeah.
And I know a lot of parents who do it. I don't do it personally myself. I try to talk it out with my children, except for my 4-year-old. He doesn't want to talk. But it's mostly like, okay, you don't want to listen to me. You don't want to do what I say. I've had it to a point. I'm going to take something away from you and let that be a lesson learned. I have told my kids, pick up your toys. They don't pick up their toys. I put it in a trash bag and I put them in my closet. You have to earn your toys back now.
Yeah, there are other things you can do without having to hit them. And because when you do that, they're not going to remember why you hit them. They're just going to remember that they can't trust you. And I think it creates a rift in the relationship. It does. It's kind of irreparable harm.
It is. It is irreparable harm. It's the same as timeouts too, guys. You know, the rule of thumb is put a child in timeout per their age. If they're 3 years old, put them in timeout for 3 minutes. I had children that were in timeout at school for 30 minutes because that's what the teacher wanted them to do. Sit in timeout for 30 minutes. That's excessive. It's abuse, and it's irreparable harm to any child. And they got suspended. I'm talking about my own children, kindergartners and pre-K students. I'm telling you, it was horrible. I pulled them from that school so quick. It's horrible what's going on in this public school system.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to say that children do have rights, but it's up to the parents to be the advocate for their children. And whether it's, you know, you don't like what the teacher that your child was put with, okay, well, you could take your child out of that class and put them with another teacher. Is also the same with their education and what the school does while your child is attending it. I learned that because I had a very difficult time in school. I'm dyslexic, so they put me where they put anybody who had disabilities and were troublemakers at in the school.
Right.
So I had to learn all this stuff, IEP and all that other stuff. And you kind of have to wiggle your way through it, but you basically have to have a stance like, listen, this is my child. This is not yours. I send them here to learn, not for you guys to punish them. Now, don't sit here and call me up and say my child did this and that and expect me to punish them when they get home. I will talk with them and see if they're going to tell me a different story or they're going to lie to me or whatever. But don't expect me to punish them because you want me to.
Right. And, you know, a lot of those times when parents sign those letters saying, do not spank my child at school, do not paddle them, no corporal punishment, those letters aren't checked, you know, every time. You know, a lot of places they paddle them anyway. In fact, there's been lawsuits over kids that already have medical conditions. Paddling could have caused, you know, issues with the medical.
Well, it's not just in school. It's also when it comes from another generation that thought spanking was A-okay and they did it for everything. And you also have to deal with them as well. Because they're like, well, your child's having a tantrum. Why aren't you giving them a paddling? Well, because if I sit here and ignore them, they'll get over it.
Yeah.
And it's
I mean, abuse is abuse.
Right.
But back in their time, it wasn't categorized as abuse.
Right, and you're not going to change the thinking of people that grew up thinking that's the way to do it.
It's just like a whole bunch of old cultural stuff that used to be A-okay back in their day, but it's not A-okay now because, well,
things are changing. Yeah, Joe Frost, who is the super nanny, did a poll, and just recently about spanking in schools. She was saying it's legal in public schools in 19 U.S. states. And she did a poll, and 1,000 people responded, and 90% of them said no to spanking in schools. So, you know, people, the attitudes have changed. And it's hard to sell that to the older generation. You're not going to change their minds. It's just like on politics or religion. You're not going to change their minds. But when it comes to your child's safety at school, they're beginning to realize that people will sue or, you know, it's just more trouble than it's worth. And so I think schools are abandoning this, and it's happening, but places it's really got a hold, and it's hard to change.
So, Julie, let me ask you this. 5 years from now, where do you see this going? Do you see
I think by
corporal punishment?
Will battle.
Repeat that, say it again.
I think within 5 years to be banned by the federal government.
And that's what I'm hoping. And I'm hoping that the laws are changed by the federal government, that they are putting this in action all across the board. And they have to put it in action in every single state, in every single school, because we cannot continue moving forward with our children being abused at home, potentially, going to school, being abused. The cycle continues and continues and continues, and we have to put a stop to that, right? We have to put a stop to that.
And children help. Right, they learn how to be a victim of domestic violence. They learn to be a perpetrator of domestic violence through all of this. It's just not okay. And I think that we're heading that way. People are realizing that, everything's in a big mess, and that we all need to do changes. And it takes effort. It doesn't take any effort to be lazy and just smack somebody if they did something you don't like. But that's not going to change anybody's behavior. All that does is make the situation worse.
Right.
So I think,
and what Aaliyah was saying, I agree with what she was saying. I grew up pretty traditional as well, and my parents had my parents and the country or the town in which I grew up in, as well as the schools, they also had a saying, "Spare the rod, spare the child." Right. So it's a traditional saying. It's biblical. If you spare the rod, you spoil the child. I heard that all the time growing up, all the time. And I never understood what it meant, right, until I got older.
Spare the rod and spoil the child. Don't hit them, spoil them. I don't know. I raised my 3 kids. I didn't have to hit them. I mean, if you redirect their attention, if they're getting a little wild and crazy, it takes time and patience, and people just don't take the time and have the patience. But we are making progress, and schools need to be held to our standards. And I know our alumni agree with that. And there are good ones that are working to make that happen, like Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. She's got a bill that would help, improve the lives of our children while they're at school, so that they're not being secluded or restrained or hit with a wooden paddle. Those things will happen. I just don't know when it's going to be.
Wooden or any paddle. Yeah,
any
wooden
paddle.
or any paddle. Yeah.
Right, no.
Because in Catholic schools and some of them private schools, exactly, you have the yardsticks, and we were accustomed to the yardsticks and the rulers in school as well when I was coming up, and so I experienced it in every capacity. And so I think that the laws and times are definitely changing now, and it's important that we continue to support and advocate for our children, because they not only are they our future, they are our hope.
They are. And you know what? I've even seen, it's shocking, but I've seen people that work in schools, actually men, take their belts off to spank kids. That I know of three incidents where that happened, and the court always came out in favor of the educator over the child, always. That they allow corporal punishment, anything goes. So they can take off their belt and hit your child. Unbelievable. But, we're going to get there. And I love that we're able to share this information that helps raise awareness. And with awareness comes accountability. But
we have to hold people accountable.
Bill, I think hopefully we'll see something happen soon on that in the Senate, and hopefully it won't stall, because that's exactly what happened in North Carolina. It went through the House and was approved, and then it got to the Senate, and it just died in the Senate. And they haven't since then, even though none of the school districts now in Carolina, the public school districts, use corporal punishment anymore. Through great advocacy.
And that was in 2017 when the bill died.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bill died in 2017, so it's definitely time. It's definitely time. Yeah. I think we should definitely put it back before them right now while Trump is in office and before the passing over of that.
You would think the states would be wanting to be the next state to ban this. I think it would be a good thing for the state. If I'd have known about corporal punishment before I moved here to Tennessee, we